Hi, Cara. Welcome to the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Julia.
Yes, our pleasure. I'm really looking forward to our conversation and for you to share with our listeners a lot of what you've been up to. If you could you share with our listeners a little bit about what you're currently doing with your IHP certification? And then we'll kind of back it up, talk about how you got there.
Yeah, I've been looking at the IHP certification for a year now. And when my kids went back to school in August, I was like, okay, I need some continuing education because I've been doing this for 16 years. And so I needed something to deepen my own understanding as well as like what I can offer in my practice. IHP also, I felt like it was a tool to potentially be able to offer more support for lab testing. I know in my area, the integrative practitioners have wait lists that are years long at this point. And so I kind of want to just do my part and help there. I actually was able to add it to my Fall Back to Health membership or Fall Back to Health challenge, where I was teaching on nervous system regulation in regards to hormone health and how to protect our endocrine system by understanding and being aware of our nervous system, and then lifestyle practices to add. Obviously, we found of health with food, certain supplements, certain exercises, and more. And I couldn't get enough of the IHP classes. Like some of it was very obvious to me because I've been doing this for so long, and I'm very in the world of the integrative health. You know, I kind of used to think I was more functional, but then functional to me became a little bit like Western, where we're treating symptoms, and IHP really goes in depth on like rebuilding that foundation and realistic expectations of how long things take. So I feel like I've been able to communicate that a little bit better with more confidence to my own clients. And then actually I'm really excited. So we're doing in my membership. So I do seasonal challenges, and then I do trips. And then in my membership, we're doing a last 90-day movement, and it incorporates mind, body, and spirit practices. And it's very minimal. It's not something that we're asking a ton from. It's just like that sweet dopamine hit of crossing things off your list every day that you're likely already doing. And if not, like you're being encouraged to do it. But in my membership, I teach educational topics every month. And this month I'm teaching on the 3 body types. So somato and then dosha, and how they parallel and connect. So I'm really, really excited to give them that awareness of themselves, because I think that number one thing that's lacking with people that come to me, besides the fact that they're not regulating their blood sugar and they're under eating, is that they haven't accepted who they are and who they were created to be. And so I think like body acceptance is so much more than like maybe even our phenotype and how we look right now. It's so much more than that. And so I'm really excited to use my IHP credentials and the information that Dr. Cabral taught me to expand on their knowledge and understanding and self-awareness.
Yes. Yeah. I love that you say that, you know, helping primarily, my guess is a majority of them are women, but maybe there are men too. But you know, there's so many women that I see struggle with, yes, like who they were meant to be, what their body types are, what their body needs. And it's not the same as their friend on the street who can eat a bag of Doritos and, you know, thrive, right? And I would argue that maybe she's not in tune with her body enough, but and understanding that we're all individuals and we don't all need the same things necessarily. And there's so much that comes into how we were meant to thrive individually. And I think primarily look for this like one size fits all. And that's where so many women get into trouble, honestly, with fasting too long and doing things that work in a predominantly, you know, male dominated mindset, like something, you know, where it's high intensity workout and long fasting. Sure. Men were meant to withstand that. Their hormonal system can
exactly. They get to switch, or they get to rotate every 24 hours. We have to wait, and who knows, between 21 and 35 days for normal. But yeah, that's exactly right. So I always teach women and yes, I do primarily work with women. We always say that men are just innocent bystanders and they don't even know what hit them and they don't know what changed them, but they get faster results, obviously, from real food changes. But the women are the ones that carry those strong emotions of like shame and fear and guilt, because either they grew up in the 90s dieting, fat-free era, or they've been exposed to the low carb, no carb, world that we live in, slash, all the different diets that can be super harmful. Like you said, intermittent fasting to the constitution of a female body is, our endocrine systems and our hormones. And my method is to really be preventative. And that doesn't mean that we can't break down all of the cycles of damage that have been done. But the goal is really to prevent all of that. So I have 4 daughters. And even if I wasn't teaching to an audience of however many social media, and then my membership of 1,000 people and my challenges of, tens and thousands of people, I would be teaching this to my daughters. And then I hear them teaching it to other people. Like my daughter had a friend who got dizzy at soccer last night, and she was like, hey, maybe you could try some Celtic salt on your tongue instead of drinking Propel. And so like hearing them pass on this knowledge is like, wow, like this is powerful, but how do we keep getting that message out into the world? Because there are so many simple tricks. It doesn't have to be, hundreds of dollars of investments of supplements. I love that Dr. Cabral taught in the supplement module about how it's like the same price as a cappuccino every day. That like really resonated with me, because I, like him, really love my morning tradition of coffee or something hot. And I don't mind spending money on it, but there's certain things that like people, especially with that insurance mentality, they think because insurance once covered what they called healthcare, they think that it should cover this or whatever. We wish, right? We wish that it did, but this is such a way to prevent disease, can't help myself now. And, remove these things that have inhibited our, health, productivity, and that in our bodies.
Yes.
So clearly I go on tangents.
That's what happens when you have passion. It's easy. So what brought you to the point where you knew that this was kind of something that you were so passionate about? You obviously are not you're a new IHP, but you are not new in the health and wellness
right.
field. Like you've been practicing for 16 years or so. What were you doing before that? Or what was the point, if you weren't doing something before that you knew that this was kind of where your passion led?
Yeah, I actually share a lot about this in my upcoming book. It's called Feel Good Kitchen. I share a lot about why I started and where I started, just because I think it helps people, they see like the big picture of, wow, look, you're, doing it. But no, it didn't start that way, right? It never does. You're never out with a bang. There's a deep, like, fiery passion inside of each one of us. And that's where we have to start. We cannot compare ourselves to others. I think I heard in church that compare leads to despair. And so I really hope that people can like hone in on themselves when they find that deep rooted passion. And I know people come to me all, how do you recommend? And now like it's easy for me to recommend IHP because there's a big like change in that world of like certifications. Because the traditional nutrition certification that was like dietetics, that didn't resonate with me because it's like so Western, and it's really like sick care. It's not like preventative care. So anyways, when I grew up in Ohio on like lots of acres, and I don't want to call my dad a farmer, but he was like very, aware of produce, and like he had crops of just an acre, but like to feed our family. And that's not all we lived off of, but he was just super aware. Like he understood what creatine was in the 90s. And most of my brothers and sisters, I'm one of 7, and we played college athletics. So all of us went to school for athletics, which is really saying something because so many bodies get so worn down, but because of my dad's awareness of like supplementation and supporting our body and like having real protein and tons of different colors and phytonutrients, he really set that foundation for us that we were so fortunate to not like have injuries and like mental breakdowns and all the issues that people have. So I played basketball through college, which is really kind of setting the stage for how things turned out and evolved for me. But after basketball was done, I just went through like an identity crisis of like, who am I in the real world? Like, what do I have to offer the world without athletics? Because that's all I was ever known for was like, the hours and the work I put in the gym. And like, it actually makes me super emotional because I think that men go through this way worse than women, where they have like real identity crisis and no support. You're just done. It's like, bye. Like you're objectified and you're done. Like your 4 years are up. So unless you go pro, you got to figure out who you are. And so it's like really starting over with like, who am I? And so it kind of, for me, and I'm a really strong Christian, so it was like a very shameful experience to be so obsessed with myself and my vanity. But a lot of my teammates kind of blew up because they stopped exercising, and I did the opposite. I was like struggling with a little bit of disordered eating and, not understanding the purpose of the energy needs in my body, because energy always meant like performance. And I wasn't connecting the dots to just performing in everyday life. Like I was a 22-year-old moving to the West Coast. So I went to college in Oklahoma. Like you can't get more country than that. And then I moved to Orange County, California. And so then it was like even more obsessed with how I looked. And then I started to feel like complete crap. So I'm like running 7 miles a day, working a full day at a job I did not care about. I'm just trying to find my way, And then I started to really discern like my kingdom assignment, so to speak, because like I said, I'm a really strong Christian. And through that prayer, I realized that I was supposed to help people that were going through the exact same thing as me. So I'm 23 years old by now. And the other thing, all I ever wanted was like get married and have kids. So I wasn't really career oriented like some people are at that age. I was really like devoted to this ideal of motherhood and marriage. And that came too. So that came really quickly, thankfully, because who would I be without that? I'm not sure, because my husband is a business owner and gave me a lot of direction in that area. So anyways, if you're struggling with disordered eating, like who do you think of? You think of college age girls, right? And so I went to every sorority, I kid you not, in Southern California, and I offered to speak for free. And then I offered to run sorority boot camps so that I could teach people how to exercise without causing breakdowns in their body. So the biggest thing I was known for was to say, slow down. Like we would check our heart rates. And I would teach them that if they wanted to burn calories from fat, and if they wanted to keep their energy throughout the day, which was something that I was desiring to do myself, they had to slow down. So then I was able to kind of insert myself into 4 different colleges, like right off the bat. I had 4 successful boot camps. I had gotten married. I was pregnant with my first child. I ran these boot camps through the first pregnancy, totally healthy. I was able to take these girls grocery shopping, teach them how to read food labels, teach them the purpose of real food, eating colors, all of that. And so I felt very called to go in the direction of my very own struggles. In that process, I was able to heal myself and prevent hundreds of other girls going down that same path, and kind of mentor these girls. And that evolved to the point where I was, I had 4 kids in 5 years. I forgot to mention that. So I started this business. Like I back it up. I quit my job at an office like 6 weeks after I got married without telling my husband. I just assumed he could take care of us. And I was already pregnant, so I was super hormonal and really tired.
Surprise.
So, yeah, I'm kind of like a risk taker without even thinking things through. I just am like, idea, like follow. So I have no hesitation when I'm inspired, especially if I feel like it was the Holy Spirit. Like, Holy Spirit's activated. Sorry, quit my job. But it was really such a huge blessing because I was able to nurture the people at the same struggle I was at. And then I was able to build slowly something that I hadn't even planned. There was no strategy. There was zero business strategy, but my obvious other passion was athletics. So every postseason, I came down with immune issues like the flu or a really bad cold or something I could not get over, to the point where to play in my playoff games, like we made it to the Sweet 16 one year, I had to take like steroids. Like I could not even perform without like major medication, right? My parents were like, a little whiskey might help. The doctor's like, let's do a round of steroids. So anyways, I was really passionate about helping athletes before the burnout, because what happens, and I hate to say it, and I hope some athletes listen to this, but athletes still don't get help until they're burnt out, and or they're transitioning, or they're having an identity crisis. So I would love
culture though, right?
It's like our whole culture.
Nobody listens totally to the whisper of anything. Mm-hmm. You have to be in full blown crisis before anybody's like, oh, do you need help? Sorry, I didn't realize you were drowning. Let me hear. Like,
yes.
And it's still, I feel like 60, yes. So I feel like it's just like the mindset of our culture is, it's just put your head down, go, 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 go. Don't even, like, you can't even notice if someone's drowning if you wanted to, because.
Yeah, that's true. Because you're just barely staying above water.
Right. Yeah. So go ahead. So,
oh, you're fine. I told you this could take a while, but I also want, like I said, I wanted to encourage people. Like there is a couple different phases to this. So after I got pregnant with my second, I actually had some risks in that pregnancy where I couldn't keep training the boot camps. So I had to let that go. And that was okay, because I was ready to move on from fitness to just nutrition and performance nutrition and that sort of thing. So at that point, and like I said, I never was career minded necessarily, but I have so much fiery passion inside of me, I couldn't sit still. So I would actually take my toddler and pregnant self and go to athletic training facilities, introduce myself, tell them my past, my experience, like what I could do. And literally everybody was like, yeah, we want to work with you. I never once got turned down. And occasionally I did get a babysitter for the occasion, but like, I just there was nothing that could have held me back from where I wanted to be and where I could insert myself. So I think like for reflection we could do, because I know a lot of people doing IHP are probably like a second or third career, it's not always like, the 22-year-old version of you, because this is a lot of like comprehensive content for somebody super young to absorb and totally understand. But anyway, so at that point, I started finally working with athletes. I actually was able to connect with agency in LA that I was working with, like top round NBA draft picks every year and getting them ready for the draft, and like, getting to fulfill my own passion, because those athletes were never going to come to me, but their agent made them. So that was really fun. I got to work with NBA, football, NFL, Olympic. I still am friends with some of my like Olympian soccer players that I was able to get back after giving birth to play in another World Cup or another Olympics. So I started to build something without even realizing it, working with these athletes, because word of mouth travels really quickly, like way better than social media, only because it's natural and people are only telling people that want to know. And it was like totally informed, it wasn't just saturated. So after, I lived in Orange County, so working with celebrities was hard to avoid. And that was not my passion, working with celebrities. But I also like had a hard time saying no to things. And so fast forward, I had, I had 3 kids, and I took on my first celebrity. And that's when social media was making a bigger impact. So like there was no algorithm. You just somebody shared something and everybody that followed them saw it. And so I blew up overnight, like 3 weeks before I was about to give birth to my third daughter. So I had to like hire help and initiate this challenge programs, because I wasn't able to take individual clients anymore. There was, 150 people in my inbox that wanted support now. And that seems low, like a low number now, but like imagine, and that was really just like 6 years into my career, not even. where I had to build my challenges. And then that led to a subscription because people wanted to commit for the whole year. And then I finally started hiring some business coaches. I have 8 employees now, and all with different roles, all, work from home moms, which is really awesome for me to empower these moms to have their own identity and still manage a household and be able to buy their own furniture. Every time one of them buys something, they're like, thank you. So it's such a good feeling. And then I was able to last year build a membership program, which is actually, offering the monthly content, but in a portal. So it's a live portal on my website. We have 2,500 CCN is what we call my business, Cara Clark Nutrition, approved recipes. And then weekly to-dos. We have linked resources. We have 2 live calls a month where they can ask questions. And we also educate on certain topics. And then the second live call every month is what we call Coffee with Cara. And it's, all of my struggles and how I work through them. And I have major nervous system dysregulation. Like I used to be the person that would, like, if you heard a pin drop, be like, what's that? Like I was just, it was ingrained in me. I actually, in the last couple of years, started learning more about root cause testing and like when that stuff starts popping up, and bioresonance scans and biophoton, and just really like being able to nurture my whole body without having any major health issues, right? Like I wasn't going to wait until I was diagnosed with something like thyroid disease or something like that. I was going to be on top of it, especially because I have 4 daughters and I have a lot going on. So like my performance energy, going back to performance and performance energy, I started to put those dots together and realize, well, everybody wants to perform, whether they, are a waiter in a restaurant or a teacher in the classroom or whatever their job and their kingdom assignment is. Like everybody wants to feel like they're performing and wants to have sustainable energy throughout the day. So I started using my athletic background and drive to really motivate people in their everyday life so that they could feel the difference, which is kind of what I always go back to. Like, well, how do you feel?
Yeah. And encouraging people to literally feel and not
right.
keep going.
Which is a big piece of it.
Yeah. I just like asking, somebody how they feel. Sometimes often like I'll get on a call with somebody and I'll be like, oh, how's your day? And they'll be like, and they have to take a pause because they're like, I haven't thought about how my day was until now. Right?
Yeah.
Unless somebody asks you like, how do you feel? How we're just go, 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 go. And sometimes it's not even apparent that you should slow down and think about how you feel.
Exactly. It's always the first question I ask my kids. They tell me about something and I'm like, well, how did that make you feel? And they're like, It is important to think about how we feel.
Yeah. And to teach children that is a way to kind of ingrain in them that to be in touch with that and to not be, numbing it, distracting it, because that in our society so often. Yeah.
Well, and the other thing I want to encourage new IHP or new business owners, health coaches, whatever you want to call yourself, is that you have to put yourself out there, and like people are hungry for direct contact. COVID really did a number on people with all the virtual reality world, but people are hungry for direct contact. And for me, as a mom, it was easy for me to go into like these moms groups. So I started in churches like the MOPS and offer myself for free. And we had the same interests as these people. So think about it. Like, what are your interests? Like, what stage of life are you at? How do you connect with people at your stage of life? How do you present yourself as, somebody that could really help nurture their lives, So that's what I would encourage them. And I always tell people, again, like compare leads to despair. I know people say comparison is a thief of joy, but it actually leads you to a feeling of like inadequacy. So try to really like start your own thing. And I know Dr. Cabral talks a lot about that because we all do have different passions, like you and I were talking about before the call.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And even if you have a similar passion as another coach, you're still unique in your approach. how you deliver the information, how it makes somebody feel. And so, yeah, it being kind of unique in your own sense is so important.
Well, and I wouldn't say like even having what I have, because I think a lot of people are like, well, I want that and I want that and I want that. Well, not everybody really does want that. It's like, don't try to convince yourself that just because you think something is the highest level means it's the highest level for you. I never actually planned to have this. This was something that was asked of me, so to speak. And honestly, I would give it all back and do something different if that's what I felt called to do. Mm-hmm. Or if it was taking away from my family.
Yep. And I think that kind of goes back to just trusting that we're all kind of on the path that we're supposed to be, right? And whether it's your faith in God, whether it's your faith in the universe, whether it's whatever drives you to believe that you're just, filling out your mission and your passion is the most important part of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I'll add real quick, I know we're running out of time, but I really loved the de-stress protocol. And I didn't even realize I had been implementing a lot of that because, you do have to build that foundation. And once you start to get people feeling better, then they do have a little bit more drive to heal certain aspects of the rest of their body. And I love how he said, it always goes back to gut health and nervous system. If you could just fix two things in your body, that's what it is. And I love how he said, or maybe, I don't know if it was him or somebody else, but how first there's a stress that leads to a breakdown in the nervous system, that leads to a breakdown in the hormone system, that leads to a breakdown in the immune system. And usually it's not until people have autoimmune disease when they start asking for help. So encourage people to ask for help sooner, because that de-stress protocol really does work, teaching people how to meditate and showing them how to exercise properly without wearing out their adrenals, and helping them understand that they need to eat in the morning so they're not operating on adrenaline and cortisol, and understanding that cortisol is a precursor to progesterone. I know I'm getting a little sciencey here, but I just think that there's so many elements to what he's teaching that could really empower us as a culture,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And in that same idea, I would love for you to touch upon the fact that you're kind of a big part of your focus is blood sugar regulation. And again, primarily speaking, I feel like it's so much more important for women, again, because of how our hormone system is designed. Blood sugar dysregulation is a major stressor, which leads to hormone imbalances. How do you kind of approach it? I'm a big believer that this whole intermittent fasting thing, especially beyond a 14-hour window, has kind of allowed women to disguise or put the name of healthy eating on disordered eating. I'm
absolutely.
But I think so. I'm not going to say what I think because I want to hear what you think. What's your approach with these women clients when it comes to blood sugar regulation?
Right. And I'm very willing to say that I've been teaching against intermittent fasting for women for 16 years. I've known this from the very beginning, but I will say that learning blood sugar regulation myself was the most life-changing, energy-giving tool that I've ever learned. And obviously that comes from balancing macros. But we also live in a world that wants to do as little as they can and get away with it. So balancing macros of real foods, the bun shouldn't count as your carbs to your burger, but sometimes it does, and that's okay too. I think that blood sugar regulation should be taught starting in kindergarten, all the way through high school, all the way through college. There shouldn't be a health class that doesn't include blood sugar regulation. And really, at the basis of it is just managing and combining those macronutrients when we eat, and protecting our. So we hear about all these insulin disorders, all these cortisol disorders, but we don't ever really hear about the nature of preventing it. And so I teach my philosophy, which, maybe that's why I liked IHP so much, because so much of it coordinated. We have our clients have a smoothie morning. The only difference, and I work with all women, is that we encourage 4 meals a day, because most of our women cannot eat enough at one meal to support all of their energy needs. And I always say, a man's job's from dusk till dawn, a woman's job is never done, especially a mother. So we just have more energy needs, I think. And then if you're still cycling, then you're dealing with those energy needs. And, I was teaching my daughters about not drinking freezing cold water, because then that changes, like, our body has to use energy to use that water. And it's like, we want to conserve our energy. So anyways, I teach eating within the hour of waking up. The only exception is if you go straight to a workout, but if you understand your dosha, you might not be going straight to a workout when you wake up. So anyway, eat within the hour of waking up, always combine your macronutrients, keep those meal sizes consistent, and eating every 4 hours. So you can see how 4 meals get tucked in if you're eating every 4 hours, right? So postmenopausal, I give them the longer window. They don't have the same energy needs, right? But premenopausal, still cycling, I really feel like those are our energy needs. And that's what sustains us. That's what gets rid of those afternoon cravings. That's what gets rid of our, caffeine cravings and that sort of thing. So yeah, we encourage our clients to start out with a smoothie every single day as well, just like Dr. Cabral does. And then obviously we add in tons of different colors. So one of the pillars of our philosophy is eating 5 different colors a day, instead of focusing on like the mass amount, which I think overwhelms people and also like intimidates them and sometimes even discourages them. I really make it like a no-fail system. I teach people that even if they're learning and not applying, they're still succeeding, right? And so like that success mindset is about like, what are you learning to be able to apply at some point so that you can feel good? Because if you feel good, disease is likely to not sneak up on you, because you are going to recognize the signs before they overcome you at that 4th step of autoimmune disorder, even, immune issues. Because I, at one point, had viral overload, yeast overload, all these things just from being a mom of 4 and run down and, really focusing on food and exercise, but not the rest of the de-stress protocol. Started to understand that, I was able to get back to my foundation of health and then start teaching it. So I didn't even talk about that part, but yeah, I think that God allows us to go through things so that we can reach people differently.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, people always think, oh gosh, I don't want to eat this big thing in the morning, but a smoothie, you're able to stay in a digested fast, but still give your body the necessary nutrients, micro, macro that it needs to get up and start the day. So especially moms, I mean, like running in 100 different directions, trying to like keep your patients right. All of that takes energy, getting kids out the door to school. And if you're not putting any energy in, well, you can bet your body's going to figure out how to find energy and cortisol, adrenaline.
Yeah. And wreak havoc on your endocrine system.
Yes. And you're off, and it destroys the rest of the day, right? Your cravings after dinner are through the roof, and it's just hard to like reel it back in. So yeah, getting things set at the beginning part of the day is so important. What I would love for you to do is, could you share with our listeners all of the places that you show up, social media or websites, if they're interested in kind of learning more?
Yeah, you can find me on all of my social media, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and YouTube at Cara Clark Nutrition. That's with a C. And then I'm also the nutritionist on the fitness app, Fit52. And so you can go find my recipes there. I have a membership, like I said, and a website with a couple different courses and all my challenges and cookbooks at caraclarknutrition.com.
Great. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Integrative Health Success podcast. This was great, and I enjoyed our conversation so much.
Yeah, good luck to all the other health coaches out there.
Thanks, Cara.